welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone, ready to talk more The Falcon and the Winter Soldier with my wonderful friend, wonderful partner, and new uncle, Uncle Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, Charles, just call me, as I mentioned before, the man from Uncle, because it's definitely official. I have a wonderful, wonderful niece, and super, super happy about it. It's a very strange feeling. I'm kind of coming to terms with it, but I'm so, so happy. And I'm even happier to be here with you to discuss our third episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And boy, oh boy, was it a great one.
Yes, it was. So here at episode 212, we're going to be discussing Power Broker, which was a very interesting title for a very interesting episode. The third episode of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, written by Derek Kolstad. And Derek Kolstad is the co-executive producer on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But most notably, he's the creator of the John Wick franchise.
Aha.
So if you've ever seen that franchise, with Keanu Reeves as John Wick, it's a fabulous action trilogy.
It's brilliant stuff, yes.
And he recently also did he wrote the movie Nobody. Mm-hmm. Featuring Bob Odenkirk, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
And this was once again directed by Kari Skogland. So we're already at the halfway mark of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
There's only 6 episodes, so we kind of knew this would be a quick one for us. Mm-hmm. But what did you think about this episode? I really enjoyed it a lot.
I really, really enjoyed it myself, and I suppose for somebody who's even more so familiar with the comics and the source material, some of the Easter eggs they were dropping, I was seriously geeking out hard, and we will get to when we get to trivia.
Perhaps?
Maybe, yes. It seems like, it really does seem, though, they are toying with our desire for mutants, Charles. It really seems that way. And obviously
they're starting to open that door, aren't they?
And this was obviously supposed to air before WandaVision, so it was like, here you're already teasing this, and then you go ahead and do it again with Boner, pardon me, when it comes to WandaVision. No, but going back to this, I absolutely love this. I was so looking forward to seeing Daniel Brühl come out and do his thing, and he did a fantastic job. And all in all, I have to once again tip my hat to the photography and the cinematography, because it was so well done. The colors, the locations. I will have some things to add in trivia when we actually get to talk about trivia when it comes to locations, because we do get to travel a little bit around Europe, which is an interesting one, but some places are not exactly what they're supposed to be. But I'll get to that when we get to trivia. but all in all, I love this to death. And I am so engrossed in the story, and it kind of saddens me that we only have 3 episodes to go, because I'm so loving this. It really is a very meaty and tasty story. How about you? Did you like this episode?
Well, of course I did. Because as far as I'm concerned, Daniel Brühl stole every scene he was in this show, this episode. He was fantastic, very charismatic for me, and we'll talk more when we talk our topics, but for me, he was just, in a lot of ways, especially when he's in the cell, he's very reminiscent of Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs.
I was so hoping they would do that, and of course they didn't disappoint.
No, they did not. And since I brought up the fact that Derek Kolstad wrote this episode, I thought it was very interesting that this episode feels very much like a John Wick movie.
I was just going to say, the way also the location.
It looks like a John Wick movie because with the Madripoor setting that...
Yes. These very exotic Asian places are very typical in John Wick, yes.
Or Eastern European locations.
Exactly, which is where we went.
Yeah. So that's obviously into his wheelhouse, but I thought it really added something to this episode. It made it a little more special.
Oh, yes.
So it's almost like, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of a John Wick movie in this episode. Yeah.
Which
is not a bad thing as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, certainly
I'm a huge John Wick fan.
Oh, you and me both. They're great movies. And that's why I got that feel. Because, what does this remind me of? And, now you've kind of filled in the blanks for me. Because it did remind me of something, but I just
could not put
my finger on. No, I just could not put my finger on what it was. But see, because you supplied that for me and our listeners, so yeah.
Yeah, and it also seemed to have that style of humor that the John Wick trilogy has.
True.
Which was not a bad thing, like I said.
Oh, no, not at all.
And it was very good. So, new cast this time, of course, we get, certain Daniel Brühl as Baron Helmut Zemo, and he's officially called Baron now.
We finally know he's part of the nobility, or the Sokovian nobility,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So thought that was great. And obviously, we had appeared previously in Captain America Civil War. And let's see, what else? We also got the return of, Agent 13, Sharon Carter.
Yay!
Yes, played by the wonderful Emily VanCamp. And we had last seen her in Winter Soldier and Civil War. So it was great to see her again, although kind of sad that she was so cynical in this episode. But given her circumstances, I certainly understand it.
And I have a feeling Madripoor will do that too. You've seen the kind of people who frequent Madripoor, especially in the comics.
Yeah, well, especially if you run into a certain Wolverine wearing a patch in the Princess Bar, which got a shout out in this episode.
It did. I wish we'd gotten Tiger as well, but that was not to be.
Maybe, well, it looks like the Princess Bar is going to need a new owner after this episode, so maybe, just saying.
True.
Get the very cool special, I'd say cliffhanger cameo by Florence Kasumba as Ao.
Yes.
One of the Dora
So
Milaje.
cool.
And notably has also been in the movies Captain America Civil War, Black Panther, and Avengers Infinity War. So reprising her character once again. Kind of like Koye's lieutenant, if you will, in the Dora Milaje.
And she was actually the very first member of the Dora we ever saw, before even Black Panther had come out, because she was obviously there with T'Chaka.
In Civil War,
T'Challa, pardon me, in Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, well, also T'Chaka, because T'Chaka was killed in that.
Yeah,
which is something that gets referenced in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's very cool that we get the very first member of the Dora in this, that we'd seen in the MCU. So I thought it was really a nice callback.
Yeah, we get Imelda Corcoran as Selby, who is a very interesting character but doesn't survive this episode.
Which was a shame.
Same goes for Ali, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Ali Haskavy as Dr. Wilfred Nagel. And we get the very quick return cameo by Adepero Adoye as Sarah Wilson, Sam's sister, Sarah.
I'm glad they did, because at this point it's like, what happened to Sarah? You kind of saw in the first episode, and then she's like not mentioned anymore. So okay.
So we got a little follow-up. We got to check in. And unfortunately for Sam, it was at the exact worst time, because apparently Sam does not know how to mute his cell phone or put it on go to voicemail, at least.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, you're on a mission, you might want to, forward your calls to voicemail. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least, maybe turn it off, perhaps.
Agreed.
All right. So trivia. Got a lot of trivia we could go with, so I'm kind of open to suggestions here. I've got I thought we should definitely maybe address the power broker.
Yeah, which we did touch up on a little bit in the previous episode, but I think we can, enlarge upon that for sure.
Yeah, so let's start with that at least, that the power broker, if you're wondering about who this mysterious power broker is that everybody keeps referencing in this episode, he first appeared in The Thing, Volume 1, number 35, as Curtis Jackson, a professional criminal who founded the Power Broker Corporation, offering to technologically augment the strength of paying customers to superhuman levels. So essentially, offering superpowers to people, rich people, with money. And the strength augmenting process is tremendously risky, with half of the subjects dying or becoming severely deformed. But this information is a closely guarded secret. And the power broker also used highly addictive drugs on his subjects, telling them that the chemical was necessary to stabilize their powers, but in fact, it only served to keep the subjects working for and paying the power broker. That was the scam.
Yeah.
You give them that little first taste, and then get them hooked, and then they're, you keep being indebted to you. So, pretty clever scheme he had going on.
That's drug peddling 101.
Pretty much. But yeah, he was featured in a lot of Captain America comics in the 80s.
Yeah. And as we'd mentioned in the comics, he'd actually given Battlestar his powers, along with also the current Captain America, if you will, who goes by another name. But yeah, also John Walker as well. He's the man behind their powers in the comics.
So now the question is, of course, now that they've introduced the Power Broker on the show, will that mean that John Walker and Lamar Hoskins will get their powers? We'll see.
It makes you wonder, yeah.
Yep. So we'll see. If you're wondering about Baron Zemo first appeared in Captain America Volume 1, number 168, using the alias of Phoenix at first, when he captured Captain America in an attempt to get revenge upon him for the death of his father, Baron Heinrich Zemo, who fought Captain America in World War II and was responsible for the presumed death of Bucky. Now, Obviously, that timeline is probably going to be lengthened out because, well, now, now that here in 2021, World War II was 70 years ago.
Yes, so you're going to have to play with that a little bit. And also, wasn't Helmut Zemo's father also a staunch Hydra supporter and also a staunch supporter of the Nazi Party as well?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So, but as far as Helmut goes, he resurfaced later as Baron Zemo and formed a new incarnation of the Masters of Evil to attack Captain America and the Avengers in a really great Avengers storyline called Under Siege. And in that one, he crippled Hercules and also Edwin Jarvis, the Avengers butler, in the process.
Yeah.
Very notable storyline. Very cool. Because the Masters of Evil essentially kicked the Avengers' ass pretty well in that one.
Yes.
But
definitely highly recommended also by myself to our listeners for sure, Charles. Folks, definitely check that story out because Under Siege is one of the best when it comes to classic Avengers stories.
Great story by Roger Stern. I'm just saying.
Amen. Yeah.
Let's see, what else? Madripoor first appeared in the New Mutants, Volume 1, Number 32, is a fictional island located in Southeast Asia in the southern portion of the Strait of Malacca between Singapore and Sumatra. Yeah. So if you're kind of wondering where Madripoor is supposed to be set, that's where. Because it was essentially, it was based on Singapore, because Singapore has, the big, it's named after the capital city, just like Singapore, and also it's split into two sections.
Yes.
Like Singapore.
You've got High Town and Low Town in Madripoor's
yeah, exactly. So that was the inspiration. And although with Madripoor, there's a little bit more piracy going on, I think. Although, maybe not. We'll see. But a very corrupt country, regardless.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they know how to party.
Yeah. And the bar in this episode that we talked about, the Princess Bar, first appeared in Marvel Comics Volume 1, Number 1, run by a man named O'Donnell and his silent partner, Wolverine, under the alias of Patch. But later, I guess, the bar fell under the control of Tiger, and
who did have a thing
others.
going on with Wolverine, so yeah.
There you go. And if you're wondering about those interesting little balls that Bucky was picking up at the end of this episode, what was the deal with those? They're essentially called chemio beads. And they first appeared in Black Panther Volume 6, Number 1. And essentially what they are, they're like an advanced communications technology developed and used in Wakanda.
Yep.
So, which makes perfect sense because we see AO at the very end of this episode. So essentially they're like little probably spy cameras or microphones or both that essentially she placed, because you notice one of those was wedged into like between bricks of a building.
Yeah, they were like strategically placed as if they were like cameras for sure.
To monitor. So that's probably what she was using those for, if you're wondering what that was all about. So I thought I'd mention that. I also have Sharon Carter, if you want to run that down. If not, no big deal, but I know we're running long on trivia, so.
Yeah, the only quick thing I wanted to add was, of course, we do have the mention of Smiling Tiger, who is actually a member of the Thunderbolts in the comics, which is a group headed by none other than Baron Zemo, which I think was a fun one as well. Granted, we don't actually see the OG Smiling Tiger. He looks very different in the comics compared to looking like Sam Wilson. But other than that, I thought it was a nice nod to the Thunderbolts because rumor has it's a rumor that we might be getting the Thunderbolts in the MCU at some point.
I certainly hope so. And I certainly hope that Daniel Brühl will be playing Citizen V in the Thunderbolts.
I'm really hoping so too, Charles. And also, the other thing I wanted to point out to folks is
and you can connect the dots there if you're not familiar with the Thunderbolts. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Enough said, as yes. Stan the Man would say.
Right.
But added to that, I wanted to point out it's a little bit of trivia, but when it comes to locations, because among the places we go is Riga in Latvia. And funnily enough, my brother lives in Latvia, and he's been to Riga often. And I actually showed him this. I said, "Is that Riga?" And he's like, "It doesn't look familiar to me." And surprise, surprise, it was all filmed in Prague.
See, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I was personally going to say Croatia, but not. But Prague definitely makes sense.
So yeah, folks, if you're wondering, that is not that's not Latvia. That's actually the Czech Republic. But but still, Prague is a beautiful city. But it's interesting that and I know that a lot of filmmakers and such do use Prague as a location. So I just wanted to point out to folks that, unfortunately, to our Latvian listeners who probably realize this, but yeah, that is not Latvia, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm sure part of it, both of us were kind of hoping, well, once they started with the word Lat, that it would be followed by Varian, right?
It would have been nice had we actually gone to Latveria.
How great would that have been? But
it's like, oh, there's Castle Doom or something. I'm like,
little too soon.
Yes, on your right.
Yeah.
It would have been nice, like having a tourist bus, like on your right, you will see the infamous Castle Doom.
And there are the Doombots flying down to kill passing villagers or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. So any other trivia you want to share?
Well, I think those were kind of really the main points. Is that, and I suppose also the fact that Nagel is actually a member, is actually present in the comics as well. Mm-hmm. He is a scientist who actually was actually behind the Super Soldier program when it came to the Black Captain Americas and such, and all the experiments that are going on. So that is actually true to the comics. Whereas,
he's part of that Truth, Red, White, and Black series that we were talking about last week. Yes.
Correct. Yes. So I just wanted to point that out as well. But however, I believe the other character whose name now escapes me, who was actually killed in when everybody's visiting Madripoor. Remind me of her name there, Charles.
Selby.
Selby. Yeah. Selby is, however, completely was created for the show because she is not in Marvel Comics.
I couldn't remember where she was from. So yeah, that makes sense.
No, so she was created for the TV show.
Yep. All right, so we have 4 topics I want to cover with you, Nick, if you're so inclined. So topic number.
I'll think about it. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, let me know. So topic number 1, let's talk our 2 leads. So let's talk Sam and Bucky because, hey, it's Sam and Bucky Day here on the Phantom Zone podcast once again. And let's also talk Baron Zemo, who's essentially along for the ride, and they end up meeting Sharon Carter. So let's talk about her as well. There's a lot to unpack there. So... Okay. Sam and Bucky. So, Bucky comes up with the idea that, and we hinted that at the end of the previous episode, that he thought they needed to go see Baron Zemo. Mm-hmm. And we were both going, well, that's probably a really bad idea because Baron Zemo knew how to control Bucky and turn him back into the Winter Soldier. So it seemed like a really bad idea, but Bucky seemed to be very insistent upon it, much against Sam's protesting. So they go get Baron Zemo, and essentially Zemo tags along with them for the better part of this episode. So I want to get your thoughts on that, and then I also want to get your thoughts when those 3 end up going to Madripoor and encountering Sharon Carter. And we catch up with Sharon and find out that, well, she's one of those characters that was suffering because her name was never cleared. And so she's still a fugitive from the United States. So, and that's kind of affected how she's been living her life in Madripoor, in refuge almost. So I want to get your thoughts on that, Nick. So wherever you want to start, feel free.
Okay, well, first off, once again, I sent a couple of WhatsApp messages to my buddy Sebastian, letting him know what a wonderful job he did once again, because here he just topped himself. Because when we actually got that scene that you and I were speculating about of the famous words to activate the Winter Soldier, will they still be valid, or have they somehow been able to shut that down? It seems like he has it under control, but at the same time, though, it appears there's something dormant inside. Because when Zemo starts reciting those words, Bucky seems to be keeping it together, but he somewhat twitches as well. And even Zemo points out to him that you have control, but there's still something there. So maybe it's Bucky who's kind of almost been able to keep it together and repress those commands working instantly. Granted, also at the same time, Zemo didn't finish the spell, if you will,
Right.
to bring about the Winter Soldier.
So were you getting? Because this was something we talked about last week. Like
Yep.
Like I hope you have a plan for this because you know he's going to try it. And I was really glad that they addressed it right off the bat in the episode.
Yes. In fact, because it shows you also that is attentive writing. It's being aware of everything that's been that came before you, and you can tell that these guys must know Civil War back to front and all over the place, because the Civil War was heavily referenced throughout this episode.
Oh yeah, it was.
And it shows you what an important film. It makes it an even more important film in the MCU now because of this show. Mm-hmm. And I just love the back and forth between initially Bucky and Baron Zemo, and like you said, it was very much a Clarice Dr. Lecter thing going on at first between the two, and you just thought, how is this all going to play out? And interestingly, Baron Zemo is reading The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli, which is all about the fact of, how it's I guess it's kind of the precursor to Dale Carnegie's How Do You Make Friends and
influence people. Yeah, because Machiavelli, for those who don't know, was essentially a master manipulator.
That's right.
And that's what Zemo does in this episode. If you watch this episode, he's very subtly playing Sam against Bucky and vice versa.
That's right.
He especially works on Sam. It's like, boy, Bucky really got back into character really easily, didn't he? There's obviously something going on there. You might want to pay attention to that. So essentially trying to put these little seeds in the back of Sam's mind that Bucky is still a threat and still something that, Sam should be worried about. So to kind of sow those seeds of division between those two.
And we've seen his manipulation at play in Civil War once again, because he was the guy who literally broke the Avengers apart. Mm-hmm. And you do wonder, in the grander scheme of things, had he not done that, Thanos may probably have had a harder time had he come and the Avengers were still united and were still, if you will, and I think that played hugely into all that, and so it shows you what a big part Zemo played in everything. And yeah, he's still up to his old tricks here as well, even though he seems to be all nice and friendly to them. Even though he has no problems in possibly giving them food, which has been off, for a while when they get on the plane.
And that was a very funny scene where he tells his manservant, I guess, that and he's speaking in Sokovian, presumably, that he goes, is the food fresh? If not, feel free to offer it to them, meaning Sam and Bucky.
Yeah, it's like, don't worry if it smells off. Give that to them, even if it smells a little bit off. Yeah. Because it seems like I believe the fridge on the plane is out, and that's why, obviously, the food may have gone bad. And you do wonder how long that chap has been waiting for Zemo, because he's right there as soon as Zemo arrives, going, "Welcome back, Master."
Well, that's one of the cool things about this episode is that when they bust Baron Zemo out of jail, and he's right there already, ready to slip back into his normal life, like it was just a momentary delay, and so he casually slips back. He starts dressing in finer clothes, and he tells Sam and Bucky that he's a baron, and he's got this very fancy Learjet with a manservant and all this, and so he's living large. And he's not afraid to show this to them. He feels very comfortable in this. This is what he wants to project, this confidence and this arrogance, almost a little bit of who he really is as a person. And so maybe it's a little bit of an intimidation tactic, perhaps, to keep them off balance, but it's very, very effective. Like they go to this one, like shortly after they land, I think they go to this garage or something where there's all these, very old, fanciful cars, like very old Rolls Royces and whatnot. So it shows that, just Zemo has resources. It's not just, He's not just some guy getting out of prison. He's just someone who's a powerful man that now that once he's freed again, he's reassuming that role.
Yes, he's I guess probably has the kind of money that a Norman Osborn would have probably, and those kind of resources to stay within the Marvel
He's
realm.
A player, yeah.
And he's like, because these cars have been in the family forever and all this kind of thing, the kind of things I suppose a billionaire or somebody of his status would possess. And I'm sure he probably had
Yeah.
That's out of the question now. But other than that, I love this trio. It was a very unlikely trio. But and as I said, obviously Zemo is doing this because it benefits him. It's not because he suddenly decided to be a good guy and kind of help the Avengers out. And the way he pokes it kind of pulls these little threads, like you were pointing out, between Bucky and Sam is so much. It's so subtle, but you get what he's doing. Even when he sees the list, he actually gets his hands on Bucky's list, which used to be Steve's journal.
Right.
And he says, "Who is this Nakajima?" And suddenly suddenly Bucky begins to twitch and kind of get really irritated by that, because that, of course, goes back to Yuri, of course, or Yuri's son.
Yeah, the son that he killed, and he feels that he has to become friends with the father to try to atone for that.
And so that comes up, and because I have to be honest, I had not realized that was actually Steve's journal until it was brought up, and then that whole scene was fantastic. And then when they get to Madripoor, and Zemo is literally in his element.
Yes,
there's the car waiting for him.
Right.
Off they go to talk to some very unsavory characters. And even when they then go and embrace the Madripoor nightlife, he's the only one who's dancing. There's one point where he's like,
he's clubbing.
He's getting his groove on.
Yeah,
he's getting his groove on.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was hilarious. That you get to see him very like. Here he is, big bad supervillain, and he's actually taking time out to enjoy himself. And I thought that was very funny and very telling that he's very comfortable in this environment. So,
because that's why he was commenting that the great nightlife or should we say, Madripoor knows how to party.
Now I won't say that he had the greatest moves, but it's not like you saw the Red Skull busting a move back in the day.
No, yes, he's no amazing dancer by any stretch of the imagination. But the thing is that he's totally cool about I don't care, I'm going to dance, because I'm having fun. These guys, if they want to be all serious and stuff, they can do that. I'm going to have a couple of drinks and enjoy myself. I
have to wonder now if Zemo ever party with Ulysses Claw.
That would make such a great group. I wonder whether he actually produced his
Claw was another guy that seemed like he always had a good time being a bad guy.
I wonder if Zemo actually produced Claw's album that he has on SoundCloud.
That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious.
Because having that kind of money, he's like probably has the super studios like, okay, Ulysses, ready when you are. And the guy's like recording, laying down his tracks. That'd be kind of neat.
That was fantastic, yeah. So things take a very complicated turn, though, when in the process of investigating this, they go to a shipping yards. And, they go looking for this container, and they run into, of all people, Sharon Carter in the process. And Sharon, obviously knows Sam, has very strong history with Sam, and but is very bitter, as it turns out, because even before the blip, the 5-year gap, that she was a fugitive because of the events of Civil War, because she helped Steve. So consequently, she had to go on the run. She escaped the United States of America, fled apparently to Madripoor, set up shop there, because it seems like she's been there some time. She knows how the game works there. She knows the players, and she's able to help navigate them around that very nasty country, that very corrupt country. So, what did you make of Sharon being reunited with Sam, and the two of them essentially working a deal where Sam agrees, like, okay, look, if I help clear your name, will you help us with this?
Well, as you rightfully mentioned, Sharon is very different from the character that we'd seen before all this happened. But hey, she's evidently doing very well in Madripoor because that's a nice apartment.
Right.
I mean, it's not like the kind of trashy apartment that April O'Neil lives in the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is a dope pad.
It's not Peter Parker's pad in Spider-Man 2. I'll just put it that way.
Exactly. I could actually find myself walking around going, "Nice gaff. This is dope." But no, she's evidently been doing very well for herself. But yes, she's definitely not a happy camper either because obviously she wants to go home. I'm sure as much as Madripoor must have many things to offer, it's clear that obviously she wants to go home because she misses her family, and she points out that she misses her family, or that she doesn't get to see her family anymore.
Yeah, she talks about it. It's been some time since she last talked to her father, and that bothers her. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she clearly wants to get back to the States, but there's no way that she could because apparently the whole thing is as soon as she sets foot on American soil, they should be clapped in irons, and that would be that pretty much.
Right.
And but she obviously provides some incredible help, obviously for our characters. And heck, she is a one-man army because she can literally put the cavalry from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to shame.
Right.
Because
there's that great fight in the midst of all those shipping containers where there's several guys. I would say a dozen guys. She fights off in the middle of that, and it's not just it's a very proactive prolonged sequence. That she's, taking out guys, a couple guys here, takes out a couple guys there, and, she's very thorough and very in control. And so it seems like, yes, she's become a little harder of a person, but she's become a more experienced fighter, I think, as well.
I was blown away. That's why I said, somebody should have recorded this video and sent it to Agent May. It's like, check this out, because I'm sure Agent May would definitely have approved of how well Sharon how big a great a fighter Sharon has become. And she's like, guys, we have to go while everybody's still talking to Nagel. But she has it handled. No matter who's coming at her, as I said, she's literally a one-man army. I was so impressed by her being able to hold off this entire group of folks.
Maybe if we get that Agents of S.W.O.R.D. series that we're wanting, spinning off from WandaVision, maybe S.W.O.R.D. ought to take a look at maybe recruiting Agent 13 back into the fold. Just saying.
Oh, for sure. Also because since apparently the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast, we might never see them again. It'd be cool to have another character a la Agent May, who was one of my favorite characters in that show. So she would be perfect for that. But yeah, it was very sad to see almost her gentle spirit, if you will, broken.
Right.
And so sort of dark, and it was very sad, because you barely see her smile. I don't think she cracks a smile once within the time we see her. And it's just like she's very businesslike about everything.
Yeah, hopefully, I don't know if we're going to get to see Sharon again, but hopefully we will. And hopefully, something happens where she gets a happier ending, hopefully, for her.
I hope so too. And also because Sam did promise her that as soon as they got back, or once things had cooled down a little bit, he would actually look to getting Sharon pardoned.
Yeah. Hopefully that'll be something that we'll see in the final episode. Fingers crossed, right?
I really hope so.
Because hopefully Sam comes through on that promise. For her sake, if nothing else. But, it was very funny to see Sam totally out of his element in this, this Eurotrash club scene. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, and I immediately stuck in my head seeing him when he was dressed like that. I was like, I immediately thought pimp. And he actually points out, why am I the only one who looks like a pimp?
Right. It's like, you're not a pimp. You look like the Smiling Tiger. Just trust us. But it was very good. And, just the banner between these characters, because, just Zemo being this master manipulator and Bucky being this very stoic figure. And then we get to see him cut loose and be very comfortable once again as the Winter Soldier. So we'll see what happens with that.
That was creepy.
Yeah. He's able to just turn it on, maybe turn it on like a light switch faster than maybe even Bucky realized. Like it came uncomfortably natural to him to go slip right back into that role.
It did kind of creep me out a little bit, like you were
Right.
saying, Charles, by becoming the emotionless killing machine,
Right.
which the Winter Soldier had been. And the way he just plows through these guys in the bar like it's nothing. And you're like, whoa, he's really selling it. Is he just selling it? Or is it that kind of dormant Winter Soldier, which is coming out at that moment because he needs to? It's almost like he has him almost reined in, kind of like the Hulk and Bruce Banner, if you will.
Yeah.
Where he's like letting it go and letting that other side of him come out because it's needed. And because that's why my thought is Bucky just playing the part, or is he loosening his grip on that persona because he needs to in order to keep up the appearance? Because obviously he has to pretend he is still the Winter Soldier.
And I love the fact that we don't know. It's left very nebulous, so very open to interpretation. Maybe even Bucky doesn't know, but consequently, it makes the Winter Soldier, or at least Bucky, more unpredictable because there's always there's going to be this looming threat. Well, does he finally slip back into that and become the Winter Soldier again? So it's this something that's this threat that's always looming out there, as even with all the other chaos going on, that this is something that could just pop up and rear its head at any awkward, horribly timed moment.
Yes, very true. And you mentioned the dialogue. The dialogue is so good in this.
Yeah, it is. Great script.
Even when they talk about it's like, for example, the way Zemo describes Trouble Man. I love the movie and I love the soundtrack to Trouble Man. It is actually one of my favorite Marvin Gaye albums.
Yeah.
And the way he describes it is like perfect, and to the point where Sam wants to, is ready for a rebuttal, but he's like, I'd like to say something, but the guy's nailed it.
Yeah, he's like, even Sam cannot disagree with that. So one last thing before we move on, I did want to talk about.
Sure.
Sam and Bucky have this conversation about the shield. And
oh yes,
Sam seems very resentful toward the shield. He's talking about he sees what happened to Sharon. He feels horrible about that, and he thinks of all the other lives that have been affected. So he's like how many people have been steamrolled for this hunk of metal? And Bucky, of course, takes the opposite position. Is like, look, this thing was a symbol. It saved lives. So you should treat it with more respect. But Sam is like, no, what I should have done? I should have destroyed it.
Yeah.
And, he's very adamant about it. It seems like he really hates that shield now for what it represents. And that's not sitting well with Bucky at all. So what did you make of that sequence, that scene?
It also makes you wonder by the end of the show who will be the next Captain America, because in the comics, Bucky was Captain America for a period.
Yes, before Sam. But they've both been Captain America, so it could be either one.
I mean, they could all surprise us where we're maybe hoping, that it is Sam by the end of the show, or it could actually be Sam saying he just doesn't want anything to do with the shield anymore, that he actually gives it to Bucky, who literally seems to want it more than Sam.
Right. But,
I could be wrong, but I was just thinking about that, that Discord, that whole exchange they had, which you brought up, Charles.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder whether at the end of the day, Bucky might end up becoming the next Captain America, to everybody's surprise, maybe.
I think maybe what's going to happen is Bucky will consider it, but I think ultimately it's still going to be going to Sam, because Sam is making a big deal about how much he doesn't want it, and he's resenting the shield now. He has some serious apathy toward the idea of becoming Captain America. So it makes sense from a story standpoint to make the guy who's so reluctant and doesn't want it to be the right one to take on the role.
It does. It can sometimes be a bit of a narrative trope in that sense, where you do get, should we say, the chosen one who doesn't want the stuff, but then in the end he gets to accepting his role as the chosen one or the wielder of something. It's true.
Well, it almost, it feels like the only one that, is worthy to have the role is the one who shouldn't want it. Almost.
Yeah.
So, and that's probably what, because otherwise, they would either abuse that responsibility, like say John Walker does, or just be completely inappropriate. In the case of Bucky, perhaps.
Would you see it as a missed opportunity if by the end of the show they did make Bucky Captain America?
No, because the way they're setting this up, it does make sense that if Bucky became Captain America, he's been Captain America in the comics, so as far as I'm concerned, that's acceptable to me. Okay. But I think Sam needs to be, because with Sam taking on the role, it's the idea that someone coming from Sam's background, taking on the role, and what that means as a symbol in this day and age in 2021. I think it means more if Sam became Captain America.
And also on the political side of things, I think also would make quite a powerful statement as well. Right. If you did ostensibly make, in
the era of Black Lives Matter, it would definitely make more of a statement.
True. I mean, I'd be happy either way, but like you said, it seems that more logically they would make Sam Wilson the next Captain America. Yeah. I was obviously just putting that out there as a theory, but it's it seems obviously more natural that that's how it would go.
So for me, bottom line, I'm good either way, but I think, if I'm going to put money on something, I'm going to put it on Sam. What about you?
Same here. I mean, it also because of all the racial things that are being addressed in the show, it would almost stand to reason that it would be Sam, not to mention almost maybe to vindicate people like Isaiah, because it's actually pointed out in this episode about that. So it could almost be a vindication over folks like Isaiah.
Yeah, because, obviously when Isaiah he got his powers and was used by the military, we talked about that last episode, that, they didn't see that he, it was right for a black man to be Captain America, which again, I think supports my theory that Sam will be Captain America.
So too, yeah.
So. All right. Anything else about these characters? I just thought that was a very powerful scene. We needed to talk about it.
Oh, I totally agree, and thank you for bringing that up, Charles, because I think it definitely deserved to be addressed. No, I'm great. I mean, I could gush about just these three characters basically for the whole episode, but also since we do have other things to talk about.
Yes, we do have other things to talk about. So
we should probably move on to the next topic.
We should, because we'll be here all night if we don't. So topic number 2, we can talk a little bit about this, about our new Captain America, John Walker, and also, his partner, Battlestar, Lamar Hoskins. We don't get much of them in this episode, but we do get a couple of interesting scenes, I think. That one of them is, the first one is where John Walker and Lamar Hoskins, they go to infiltrate this cafe in Munich that housed the Flag Smashers in the previous episode. But their search kind of goes cold because the owner refuses to give up the terrorist organization. And that does not set well with John Walker. He pulls out the "Do you know who I am" card, which never goes over well. And
not to mention he gets spat in the face as well.
Yeah. So what did you make of that scene, first and foremost?
I was right there with my buddy Sebastian when I was like, you don't deserve that shield, because as soon as he pulled the "Do you know who I am" card.
Yep.
All the respect I had for John in the previous episode just melted away like snow in summer, because it was just like, nope, you don't deserve to have that shield. You don't deserve to be called Captain America, because that is not what Steve Rogers would do, and that is not what Captain America does. And no surprise, Lamar actually kind of reins him in a little bit. He's like, dude, this is not how you do it.
Right.
Not to mention, he seems to heavily disagree with John's methods, because John actually points out it's all about getting the job done. It doesn't matter how you do it.
Yes.
Almost. And so I have a feeling
he's definitely more of a ends justify the means kind of guy.
Playing once again to the Machiavellian theme, and Machiavelli being brought up, the prince being brought up, which I think is definitely meant for this episode. But yeah, I think definitely Lamar is the more on the level guy compared to the two, because John, because he even says, we'll worry about it later if we go through channels that are not exactly going by the book. Because to him it's like, let's bring home the mission and we can worry about how we did it later. Right. And that, once again, is not what Captain America does. Captain America is by the book by definition. That is what he does. And I could just see, Steve in some, old Steve Rogers kind of looking on, kind of shaking his head going, nope, this is not how you do it. And yes, and also the fact that seeing Lamar being almost worried of the fact that John might go down nefarious paths to reach his goals might drive a wedge between the two of them as well.
I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next question, about whether you saw friction between these two and maybe these little cracks in their partnership because of John being, like I said, an ends justify the means kind of guy. So I think this is also setting up the fact that John is going to be proven, obviously, not to be worthy of being Captain America. So that's why he will either get killed or he'll become the U.S. agent by the end of the series. So we'll see.
And I wonder whether Lamar will be by his side by the end of the show, because already he's kind of giving him the look of, you used to be cool, man.
Right. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's, it's a good observation that Lamar is at the moment, he's the mitigating force. He's the one keeping a check on John Walker to keep him from going too far. But at some point, I think John is going to ignore him, shove him out of the way, and do what he wants, and take that step too far. And maybe at that point, that will sever their friendship, their partnership.
I mean, I don't necessarily see Lamar running to find Falcon and what have you, saying John's completely lost it, but he might switch his allegiances towards the end of the show and kind of maybe be more on the side of Bucky and Sam, saying, yep, this is not how we do it. Or Sam might John might do something terrible which shocks Lamar to the point of like, I'm out of here. Yeah. And maybe he just totally checks out.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I think Lamar does need watching. Yeah. To see how he continues to support John going forward. Mm-hmm. But I think there's going to be a very sharp schism between the two coming very, very soon. Obviously within the next few weeks, right?
I think so too. Yes.
All right, so we'll see what happens, but getting little cracks in the armor a little bit between the two. All right, topic number 3. Let's talk Madripoor, the wonderful scenic vacation spot that everybody wants to go to right now.
Bring the family.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun for the whole family. It's for the kids. For the kids. So let's talk. While we're talking Madripoor, let's talk about Selby, who is someone that's kind of, the owner of the Princess Bar, where we talked about a little bit earlier, that is apparently very connected and knows where a certain Dr. Wilfred Nagel is. So that leads us to a confrontation with Wilfred Nagel. And so we'll talk about him. And we can also talk a little bit about the power broker, who we don't see in this episode, but we're told is essentially in control in Madripoor. And has set himself up as a major player there. So what did you make of Sam and Bucky, and with Zemo's help, essentially infiltrating the Madripoor crime scene and trying to get some information about the location of a certain Dr. Wilfred Nagel.
Well, as we mentioned before, when it came to Bucky, he definitely is obviously fully embracing his role as the Winter Soldier. So it literally does seem like the character we'd seen in the aforementioned film.
Yeah.
When it comes to Sam, he definitely, you could tell, is very uncomfortable with the whole thing. One, obviously, he's not happy with his attire and the fact that he calls himself looking like a pimp. And also, I don't think he has much information to go by on how to play Smiling Tiger, because at first he just sort of sits kind of stands mute, doesn't say anything, because he's like, I don't know how the Smiling Tiger talks, or what kind of relationships he has. Does he have a girlfriend? Does he have a brother? Does he, and we see this when he's given apparently what the Smiling Tiger usually drinks when he's in Madrid.
So apparently it's some kind of alcoholic drink topped off by snake eggs, presumably.
Yes.
All right. What'd you make of that?
I love how he keeps kind of putting it off when it comes to drinking it.
Yeah, he
like,
kind of brings it up to his lips, and then he brings it down, then brings it up to his lips again, and brings it down, and then finally he just slams it back all in one shot, like he's Rocky Balboa slamming a glass of egg whites, I guess.
Yes. And then he's kind of looking at the bartender going, good. And the bartender kind of looks at him like, and you think whether the bartender is actually used to Smiling Tiger saying good, or whether he'd order 5 more. But yeah, that was a nice exchange. And yeah, as I said, I think Sam is the one who's most uncomfortable when it comes to this. And of course, like you mentioned, Charles, he doesn't mute his phone when they actually get to talk to Selby.
Man. Yeah.
And yeah, because obviously first we have that whole brawl within the bar where, of course, the where Bucky has to play Winter Soldier and basically destroys half the patrons in the bar. And then, of course, they get to talk to Selby. Selby was a great character, and I was kind of sad that she got killed off because she was a very beguiling character. I very much enjoyed her. And to where you can tell that obviously her and Zemo have done business before, and they possibly don't like each other very much. Or rather, maybe on her end compared to Zemo, because Zemo's very composed about it all. And she's kind of like, weren't you in jail? And all this kind of what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
And he's very sort of matter of fact about it. It was like, the good villain's able to bust out of jail. And by the way, the jailbreak was fantastic. I love what happened when it came to the jailbreak. But outside of that, the exchange between the two was great. It was just like almost this chess game being played by these two, well-known felons within Madripoor, and I really enjoyed that. Obviously, what happens to bust the bubble? Sam gets a phone call. He initially plays it
from his sister, yeah.
And he initially plays it very well, but already you can see Selby kind of looking at him oddly, either because she's not used to the Smiling Tiger talking that way. Once again, would have been nice had Sam had a chance to see a video of the Smiling Tiger talking.
Right.
Because he doesn't know how to play this character. And she's kind of looking at him, and obviously what, breaks the deal is when his sister calls him Sam. That's obviously the deal breaker, because it seems like she might be buying the conversation when he kind of plays the whole kind of, we have to kill these guys and, the boat and
yeah, he does try to alter the conversation to fit his character a little bit.
Yes.
So yeah,
she seems to buy it.
Yeah, she does. She does kind of like, she's kind of looking at him odd, but she's like, okay, I guess I can buy this. And then obviously when Sarah brings up the name Sam, that's when it all goes down, and it's like, and then all hell breaks loose at that point.
Already it doesn't help that you hear the kids in the background when it comes to asking about cereals and what have you, and she's like,
right.
She almost looks at him like, I didn't know that Smiling Tiger had even, had any living relatives, not to mention possibly had children in his life.
Right.
But
so who do you think killed Selby?
That's a very good question, and I've kind of it was kind of like who shot Mr. Burns when it came to me when I first saw that episode.
Right.
Like who could it have been? Because my first thought went to obviously to Sharon Carter, but
Right.
obviously it wasn't her because she never openly says that she did it.
Yeah, there was no indication that it would have been Sharon. So
No.
And there was no reason for her to kill Selby. So my only thought was that, it was somebody that was monitoring what was going on, knew that, had obviously heard Selby giving up the goods, and didn't want that going out without any repercussions.
Unless it was a power broker hitman, I don't think it was the power broker himself, unless it could have been him, but it could have probably been one of the, shall we say, hitmen.
The henchmen,
because if the power broker wields all this power, I'm sure he obviously has men on the inside or women on the inside monitoring those who kind of almost handle his business or deal with him.
Hired goons. Yeah. To use another Simpsons reference.
Hired goons.
Hired goons. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite Simpsons references. So that's for you, Dan, if you're listening.
Yes,
all right.
indeed.
But yeah, I just
what
thought
are
it was,
your thoughts, Charles?
I thought it was very interesting.
Who shot Selby?
Yeah. The power broker seems the most likely, right? But I agree with you because the power broker is the guy in charge or the person in charge. It could be a woman for all we know. That the power broker is, is not going to get their hands dirty, so they're going to have an underling do it. Yeah. But it would be very cool if it would be like an assassin, a very prominent assassin, like say someone like Crossbones or something.
I really hope that we might get one of these characters because they have been. I'm glad they've been very tight.
Or Batroc or something like that.
I mean, because you're very good when it comes to, kind of the, keeping an eye on all the news and stuff that comes up with casting and what have you, Charles. But I don't know. I mean, have there been any rumors in that sense on anybody cast? So they've been very tight-lipped, which is great on that. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen anything, so doesn't mean it's not out there, but I just haven't seen it. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious, but obviously the prime suspect at the moment has to be the power broker, or at least one of the power broker's henchmen, under the power broker's direction. Has to be, I think. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. We'll find out. Dr. Wilfred Nagel. So that's everything. Eventually leads to this Dr. Wilfred Nagel, who reveals that he was recruited by Hydra, then the CIA, to synthesize a new super soldier serum using the blood of Isaiah Bradley. So again, this goes back to Isaiah. And Nagel, as we find out, was all ready for the big payday, and then all of a sudden he got blipped out of existence for 5 years before he could finish the initial round. And then when he came back, the power broker helped him fund to finish the job, and he started making like 20 vials of the serum, but they were all stolen by, you guessed it, the Flag Smashers. So that robbery that we saw the Flag Smashers engaging in, that's presumably what that was all about.
Yeah, and it points possibly even more so to the fact that those threatening text messages that Carly was getting are probably very much either from the power broker himself or somebody closely connected to the power broker.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. And the power broker now, with everything in context, certainly makes sense as far as those text messages. I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that, was obviously something dangling from last episode that, now with this additional information of episode 3, certainly seems to be heading that way. So they seem to be setting up the power broker as the big bad of this series, not the Flag Smashers.
Exactly.
And not Baron Zemo. So, although I'm sure they will be factors, but anything else about, the power broker that stood out for you? I mean, obviously we don't get to see the character, but he's obviously a very strong presence in this regard.
Oh, yes.
And what did you make of Zemo suddenly killing Nagel? He turns around and shoots him. What do you think? Why do you think he did that?
Because we know that Zemo is a very cool and calculated character, and he's been able to master his emotions. So so there has to be a reason why he did that, and it wasn't just an instinctive reaction.
Yeah.
So either he's trying to cover up for something which might be revealed later down the line, and possibly Zemo knows more than he's actually feeding Sam and Bucky, which would not surprise me.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I'm shocked by that. Yeah.
because obviously, he's keeping the juicier parts to himself.
Well, he's only revealing what he wants to. He's very deliberate that way.
Oh yes, he's giving these little breadcrumbs without actually maybe giving them the whole story.
Right.
So I think he was probably worried that Nagel might spill more beans than Zemo was prepared to kind of share with the rest of the class, if you will.
Right.
And so he's like, no, enough of you, shut him up. And so that's probably why he did it. And Nagel is a nasty piece of work because he's kind of like, he really is that mad scientist for hire, because we've learned that he worked with the CIA, with Hydra, with whoever was prepared to fund his research. He has no moral qualms whatsoever. To him, it's all about, you fund my project, who cares if people die? As long as my project is alive and well, I'll work for the devil if needs be. So it was kind of that whole thing of I hate to constantly go back to them, but I can't help it. It reminds me of the Nazi scientists that were taken on by the United States during Project Paperclip, the Klaus Barbies of the world.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, he's a very unscrupulous scientist, a very immoral scientist. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that Zemo was afraid of him telling more than Zemo wanted him to tell for whatever reason. We don't know yet. So, but yeah, it was a very sudden execution, and I'm kind of surprised that a bigger deal wasn't made over Zemo's actions doing that. We'll see.
Well, I did hear somebody go, no, and I don't know whether it was either Sam or Bucky.
I think it was Bucky. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
one of the two, but there is kind of shock by it. And one quick thing I did want to add, Charles, it was so cool to see Zemo finally in the purple mask.
Yes, it was. So we kind of end the whole Madripoor thing with Zemo donning the mask, and we get to see he's got a much more of a comic book supervillain look to him. So I'm presuming he'll keep that for his action sequences going forward. And, he shows up, he's like, hey, look what I found. And he shows up in this very stylish convertible.
Of course.
Kind of like, doing the whole, get in, bitches, we're going to go do whatever. And, we're going to go get Flag Smashers or something. But yeah, he's very comfortable, and of course you get the great reset from Captain America: Civil War, of if you remember in Captain America: Civil War, it was Bucky in the back seat and Sam in the front seat, and Bucky was asking Sam, "Hey, do you mind moving up your seat?" And so he could have some more room, and Sam's like, "No." And so, right there showing that antagonism they have toward one another. So they flip it now in this episode where Sam is in the back seat and Bucky's in the front seat, and Sam realizes, you're not going to move your seat up, are you? And, of course, Bucky says, nope. That's great.
And you do kind of see Zemo give them a quick look of kind of I'm working with children.
Yeah, exactly, right? So kind of similar to a certain Princess Diana in that regard in Justice League, if you recall that line.
That's immediately made me think exactly of Wonder Woman saying, "I'm literally working with children."
That's one of my wife Lori's favorite lines from Justice League. So that's one of the things she hated about the Snyder Cut, because that line was not there in that. By the way,
I was going to say, one of the saving graces of the OG Justice League, the theatrical release.
Exactly, but that's a whole different discussion. We don't want to go down that road. That's all DC territory. We're talking Marvel today. All right, anything else about this topic?
No, I mean, I'm obviously now as I'm sure was the objective, you really want the reveal of who the power broker is.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious to see who has been cast as the power broker, because as like you rightfully said, Charles, it could even be a woman for all we know. But I just want to know who this is. Either it's somebody we know from the MCU who actually was more than what they seem, or it'll be a whole new person. And I'm super, super curious about that. I really, really am. And I hope we get to go back to Madripoor, because the set was so good. And it really did look like either a Bangkok or a Singapore. That's, as I said, a kind of a vibrant Asian city. And I love that set, and I really hope we will get to go back to Madripoor eventually.
Yeah, because essentially what this episode is, it's almost like an espionage episode. You know, they're going undercover, they're posing as characters, they have to go from person to person to try to get information. And there's obviously a lot of action along the way. So it feels very much like a espionage thriller film in this regard. But obviously Sam, way out of his element. Let's face it. He is not built for espionage, I think. He's more, a little more flamboyant and showboating than...
Yes. Well, I mean, he's more of a military man, so more of a man of action rather than doing the whole spy thing, which obviously Bucky has been doing for ages as the Winter Soldier. And let's be honest, Bucky had a much easier role. He literally had to just play himself from a past life.
Yeah, exactly. But it may not have been as easy for him because it brought up a lot of trauma for everything that he was. So that's something he had to probably constantly struggle against because he doesn't want to slip back into that role.
So and in fact, there could be consequences to the fact of having briefly played the Winter Soldier there on what kind of, whether he has a tenuous hold on that.
Well, I think that's just one of the things about his character. He always has that tenuous hold. So it makes him an interesting character. So the question is, will he slip back or not? Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think so, but especially since we only have 3 episodes left, I don't think so. But we'll see. There's always that danger. And that's what makes him a more compelling character, I think.
Definitely,
all right.
Definitely.
Topic number 4. Let's talk very quickly. Karli Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers. So we kind of get to finally know Karli Morgenthau as a character in this episode. We kind of, we're first to get to see her again in Latvia, where she's playing soccer with children, or the football, as it's known in the European countries. So she's playing the football.
Or as Homer Simpson calls it human foosball.
Yeah, that too. Well, we're getting a lot of Simpsons references in this. Stan, you better re-listen to this. So, but anyway, she's playing with soccer with children at this GRC resettlement camp, and she's by the bedside of this older woman who we find out later was her Mama Danya. This woman that apparently, she has a history with, and whose death, it really kind of upsets her in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So we don't know yet what kind of relationship what tie there is. I'm assuming familial tie, but it's. I guess we'll find that out.
Yeah, we see her like tearfully apologizing to the woman for whatever reason, kissing her on the cheek.
Yeah,
and but so maybe we'll find out a little bit more. But apparently, it's one of the reasons that she does what she does. She's doing what she does. Because, she's very young, but she seems very determined. And we find out later when they go to Lithuania. So we're kind of like all over Europe in this episode.
Yeah, here we're visiting the Baltic states of Europe.
Yeah, we get this little detour to Southeast Asia with Madripoor, but primarily this is centered around Europe and the Baltic states, like you said.
Yeah.
So which is perfect again for an espionage type episode, right? Because it's a very atmospheric setting. So, but we find out that apparently she wanted to be a teacher. Yes. But the blip apparently, resulted in her ending up on the streets of Madripoor. And there she was looking for the serum to protect her and others at this camp, refugee camp. And so she was looking to use the super soldier serum to strengthen, give the kids powers, to strengthen them so that they could fight back. And somehow she got to know the power broker. So the power broker has a connection, and it's probably, like you said, who texted her last episode. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of get a little bit more understanding of that. So what did you make of that?
Well, first off, I had some sympathy for Carly in the previous episode because on the surface, it seems like a noble cause. And we are introduced also to this agency, which is meant to help folks who have come back from the blip. And we got that kind of
the Global Repatriation Council is what it's called.
Yeah, we got that kind of obligatory, very sort of patented kind of commercial that you get for like a support group. And it was actually, the commercial was very well done. It was very slick, and it's kind of commercial you would see when it comes to like a public service announcement or something like that. So it was really well done. Yeah, on the surface, it seems like Carly's heart is in the right place, but she's probably going about it a little extreme.
Yes, she's an extremist. Let's face it. Yeah,
she is. Because she wants to help people, but she's going about it the completely wrong way by, through terrorist actions. And even there's almost a mirroring relationship with her and shall we say her lieutenant, when they blow up the GRC, one of the GRC facilities with people still in it.
Well,
and he kind of
the lieutenant, the guy Dovich, protests.
Dovich.
Yeah, and she's like,
well, it's kind of like there were people in there.
Yeah, and she's all much more callous and cold in that regard. She's like, this is the only language these people understand, which is something that's a terrorist leader right there. Yeah, an extremist.
It does, and I think it does mirror the Dovich-Carly relationship mirrors somewhat what is going on with John Walker and Lamar, in the sense that
that's good. Yeah,
we see that first Dovich and Carly are evidently very good friends because they're talking about what they would have liked to or what they'd like to do once all this is over. Because and it's very casual. It's like the talk two friends would have, but suddenly Dovich possibly thinks maybe we're not doing the right thing when Carly, callously, like you point out, blows up that facility with people in it. And that's why it makes me think kind of like the way Lamar looked at John is the same way Dovich looks at Carly now. It's kind of like your quest is noble, but your actions aren't as noble as what your, shall we say, mission statement is.
Yeah, it's like, I think he's, for the general purposes of what they're trying to do, he's okay with that. But when she starts taking actions like this, like killing people, innocents, then he's kind of like giving her the side eye and reevaluating the relationship, going, and that might create a problem that Carly's going to have to deal with and probably take him off the board, I'm presuming.
And I think Carly is very desperate at this point.
Yeah.
She seems to be unraveling somewhat, and which could very much spell her downfall by the end of the show.
Yeah, and it could be because of the powers that she was given,
which is starting to mess with her head as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a psychological side effect to the power she was given.
It could very well be, but I think that will probably come into play by the end of the show. That it will be her downfall. The fact that her desperation makes her become almost sloppy when it comes to what she does, because she could have easily left the members of the GRC just tied up, because as Dovich rightly points out, we got what we came for. We can go.
Right.
But that's why I think Carly.
That wasn't enough for Carly. She wanted more.
That's right, and I think this constant thing is going to make her go to further and further extremes, which will probably lead to her being sloppy and eventually getting caught.
Yep. We'll just see what happens, but not looking good for our freckle-faced redhead. I'm just saying.
Very true. And I wonder whether Dovich is long for this world.
I think I think he won't be around much longer. Let's just put it that way. 'Cause especially if he starts questioning her methods, she's not going to be too pleased with that. I mean, if she's willing to kill a bunch of innocents, she's not going to be tolerate criticism of her actions for too long, I'm guessing.
That's what I have a feeling that Dovich was almost like, nice knowing you.
Yeah. Thanks for checking in before you check out. All right. Anything else about this episode that we missed that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I just really think I really want to tip my hat to the writers, and the fact that I said that we get these mirroring relationships on both sides of the fence, which I thought was great because it really plays in, and because I think it almost seems to be the common thread, because we even see between Bucky and Sam, there's friction with who is supposed to be, the person you're tight with. And I love that this plays throughout. So it's a sign of very good writing.
Yeah.
So it just makes you want to stick with this show. I mean, granted, I would have stuck with this show anyway, even had it been a bad show, because the completist in me was like, okay, this show sucks, but I'm going to watch it till the end anyway. But luckily, it is not the case. So I'm really loving this, Charles, and I can't wait for next.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next episode either. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. All right. So what's your favorite quotes of this episode?
Okay. Well, I had a couple when it came. Well, first off, the exchange between Sharon and Zemo. Sharon is actually pointing out to him when she says, look, the whole hero thing is a joke, right? I mean, the way you gave up that shield, deep down, you must know it's all hypocrisy. And Zemo's like, he knows, and not so deep down.
Ooh, I liked your Zemo impression there. That was very good.
Thank you.
Very sinister. I like that. That was very good.
I try. And then Bucky, when Bucky says, when Steve refused to sign the Sokovia Accords, you backed him. You broke the law and you stuck your neck out for me. I'm asking you to do it again. And I thought to myself, Sam, the look on Sam's face, like, seriously?
Right, exactly. It's like, I know I forced you to break the law before, but, you're cool with doing it again, right? Yeah.
You were on the run for 2 years, but we're still good if we do that again, right?
Yeah. There's a number of good lines in this one. So, Sam with Bucky, where Sam is saying, I forget who is talking to him. Maybe it was Zemo. And Sam says, they cleared the bionic staring machine, and he's killed almost everyone he's met. And Bucky's over there in the corner going, like, I heard that.
Bionic staring machine.
Bionic staring machine. That was a great line. I love that. Great description. I love Sam, like when he's running, they were trying to run out of the Princess Bar. There was a bounty placed on them, and they're being chased by all these would-be assassins, and he's like, I can't run in these heels. I thought that was a very funny line.
It was fantastic, yes.
It's like, now you know what women go through. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. One last one. Mm-hmm. Bucky with Sam again. Surprised. They always get the best lines. Bucky says, are you okay? And Sam says, yeah. Just thinking about all the S Sharon had to go through. And Nagel referring to the American test subject like Isaiah wasn't even a real person. It just makes me wonder how many people have to get steamrolled to make way for this hunk of metal. And Bucky replies, well, it depends on who you ask. That hunk of metal saved a lot of lives.
Yes. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. So the ideological line is drawn between these two.
Yes, indeedy.
So the question is, will Bucky get through to Sam? Or will Sam tune out that advice? We'll see. Stay tuned. Tune in next time. All right, so what's your rating?
Well, I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 Trouble Man soundtracks.
Very good, very good. Yeah. So for me, you want to break out that Captain America, the Winter Soldier soundtrack, which has Trouble Man at the very end of it.
Exactly.
So a lot of fun, which everybody should have anyway, right? And
Trouble Man is the bomb.
That's one thing I noticed in this episode, especially Henry Jackman, who did the score, I believe, for the Winter Soldier, yes. does the score here as well.
Which is great.
It was just fantastic. So it really gives it that Captain America trilogy feel to it. So I'm with you. I give it 9 out of 10 as well. 9 out of 10 dancing Baron Zemos. As Baron Zemo gets his groove on.
Somebody has to gift that. They really do. They have to make that
I'm sure
a gift.
they have. I'm sure they have. Yeah. Get down with your bad self, Baron. Just saying. Right.
Yes.
All right. Phantom Zone news. Just really quickly, I have one thing I thought I'd share with everybody, especially since I know, Nick, you're such a fan of The Flash, like yours truly. You were probably excited by this, that The Flash, the TV show, has cast Jordan Fisher as Impulse.
Yes.
So Fisher will debut as Impulse in the series' 150th episode, which is also the 17th episode of The Flash Season 7. So it sounds like they're planning a full season of The Flash. I thought they might be doing an abbreviated season because The Flash started late, but apparently not. So it's probably going to go into the summer by the sound of it.
Well, more Flash goodness for us fans then.
Exactly. So the character is described as, quote, the future son of Barry and Iris. Wait a minute. Bart Allen is supposed to be Barry and Iris's grandson, not his son.
Didn't we get Nora as well? I'm like, okay.
Berlantiverse. Shakes fist. So it's messing with the chronology once again. And but Bart is said to be the fastest teenager on the planet, even though the actor playing him is 23. I'm just saying. However, due to his penchant for, quote, wildly impulsive behavior, get it? Barry and Iris will have their hands full trying to teach him patience, which will be a necessity if they want to succeed not only as a family unit, but also in stopping the biggest threat to the Flash yet.
Ouch! Ooh, it's going to be a crispy one, I think.
So we'll see what happens. But right now, if you're watching the show, they're going through a storyline that was written by Joshua Williamson not too long ago. During the rebirth era from the Flash, which involves all the various forces in addition to the Speed Force. So you get like the Strength Force and
the Sage Force.
Sage Force, thank you. I was trying to remember that, and some others. So we'll see how that plays out.
And we have also been introduced to characters like Fuerza, who is actually introduced in that storyline.
Right.
Yeah.
Although Fuerza looked pretty much like a low-rent, bad CGI Hulk. A little disappointed. Disappointed with that. So, but I guess that budget had to go somewhere else. All right.
Superman and Lois, maybe.
Yeah, well, or we gotta save it for Barry running up skyscrapers, I guess. So anyway, we do have one bit of fan mail this week, not two, but we do have Holly Mack writing in about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 3. So Nick, would you like to read that email?
Certainly. So Holly writes, "Hey Charles and Nick. Hey Holly. Man, what an episode. I do have to say the team up of Sam, Bucky, Zemo and Sharon was really good. Amen. The hypothetical plan that Bucky had to break Zemo out of prison and seeing it go down was brilliant. Very much agree with you there.
I like how she puts hypothetical in quotes. Hypothetical.
Yes.
Yeah. With sharks with freaking laser beams, okay?
Yes, it's true, because Bucky's like, what if this happened? Kind of thing. So,
it's like, no, what if it's a different TV show altogether? Just saying.
Yeah, which should be coming to Disney Plus soon.
June.
Yay.
Time for my birthday, hopefully. Yay.
Awesome. Yeah, Holly carries on saying the scenes in Madripoor were great, and I'm not too surprised when Sharon tells the others that most of the art in the Louvre is fake, and Bucky backs her up. Yes. At least Walker and Lamar are letting... And then she carries on saying, at least Walker and Lamar are letting Bucky and company do what they are doing and just keeping tabs on them to find leads like they are. The ending of the episode with Ayo showing up, things are really going to get interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait for next Friday. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. Just delightful as always. We got to talk to Holly earlier this week on Next Stop Everywhere, so very appreciative of that, and we'll get to talk to her again soon on another podcast, which hopefully DJ Nick will talk about.
I will. And Charles, I did actually want to quick mention is another thing that's really worth looking forward to in this show is how will Wakanda play into all this now?
Yeah, well, that's one thing we didn't talk about. So what did you make of Ao, since Holly brought it up? You know, that surprise cameo at the end. What did you make of that?
Well, one, getting the theme music, if you will, for the Dora Milaje was just so cool.
Yeah.
Because we obviously get that. And the fact that it was Ao of all people, because they were playing the whole Civil War homage here. And, of course, Ao was the very first member of the Dora Milaje that we'd actually ever seen. So it was so...
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see what... Because she is there for Zemo. The question now is Bucky going to take her to Zemo, or is he going to be like, hide in the shadows, go away, we'll talk about this later, kind of thing.
Well, again, you have to keep in mind that, remember, Zemo is the one responsible for the death of T'Chaka, right?
Of course, which is obviously why she's there.
This is something that's obviously very important to Wakanda. Like, oh, hey, the guy who killed our king, yeah, we kind of want him. So I'm guessing that little discussion that's going to happen between Ao and Bucky is not going to go over too well. We'll see.
No, but there's also to mention that I believe, isn't Zemo on Bucky's naughty list as well?
Yes, he is. He should be. So maybe they figure, well, as soon as the moment we don't need you anymore, we'll turn you over to Wakanda.
Could be. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ao does at this point, or whether we see her going back into the shadows and just wait for the right moment.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll find out, I guess. So just keep in mind, we got 6 more days as we're recording this on a Saturday to find out. Stay tuned, guys. All right, so thank you, Holly, for writing in. If you want to be like Holly, and you certainly do, write to us, phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at Phantom Zone Cast on Twitter, Facebook, The Phantom Zone Podcast, or Instagram at Phantom Zone Podcast. And Nick, how about you? Where can they find you out there in the interwebs?
When it comes to me, I can be found, of course, talking and playing country music, today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between on the Whiskey and Cigarettes radio show. For more information about that and where to visit our website, that's whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast-wise, if superhero movies are your speed, I do host Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where we discuss all superhero movies under the sun. If you'd like to join us to discuss your favorite superhero movie, you can hit us up at Happiness and Darkness, howard@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and the Instagram. Okay, and added to that, of course, I do host Scott Standard, the Oscars podcast with Rachel Friend and Zan Sprouse. We're discussing all the movies that won the Oscar for Best Picture from 1927's Wing to the present day. And if you'd like to join us on that, you can shoot us an email at goldstandoscars@gmail.com. We're on Facebook and Twitter. And speaking of which, actually, Charles and Holly will soon be joining us to discuss Return of the Jedi.
Yay!
For a special Patreon episode. So keep your eyes peeled for that, Patreon fans. And what about you, Charles?
Well, Nick, as I'm messing with Nick by kind of miming his little shameless plug section, but that's all right.
Yes.
How'd I do? Did I do okay?
You did great. The only problem is, as I said, I would never win in a staring contest with you or in any kind of contest when it comes to you making me laugh, Charles. So I guess I'll never, ever bet against you when it comes to you making me laugh.
Because I am the bionic staring machine.
Yes, exactly.
All right. As for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, or Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast. So, hey, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, or WandaVision, or Superman and Lois, or all kinds of comic book sci-fi news and other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, well, hey, Next Up Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where, like I said, Holly was just on, and with Zan Sprouse and Jesse Jackson, as we discussed the 3 Doctors this past week, which is a fabulous I really enjoyed that episode. I thought we had a really good discussion. So I hope everybody checks that one out, because I'm pretty proud of that. I thought we had a really good time, and hopefully it comes out. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I openly say, Charles, I loved that episode. Not to mention because the collaborations and just everybody concerned did such a fantastic job. And, I have to say it was kind of cool to also see this almost collaboration of all these podcasters coming together,
Right.
because obviously we have Zan representing Ghostwood and Drunk Cinema and, of course, Gold Standard, which made me very proud. And, of course, we have Holly representing the Five-ish Fangirls. I love how this podcasting community that, has come about, that you and Jesse helped spawn, constantly is, collaborating together. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, we have this nice little corner of the podcast world, and we just have a good time talking to each other. Go figure, right? It's kind of what you're supposed to do. So check us out on Next Stop Everywhere. Coming up next time, we're going to be going back to Torchwood Month. It's April, so that means Torchwood Month. And we're going to be discussing one of the first episodes of Torchwood Series 1. We're going to be discussing They Keep Killing Susie, which features the return of Indira Varma as Susie Costello. So I hope everybody checks that out. And then Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, they do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch. And we're going to be, hopefully, with our upcoming episode, we're going to be finishing off On the Air, the very, very short-lived ABC television series that was written and produced by David Lynch and Mark Frost. And that's going to be fun. It's got a lot of Twin Peaks actors in it. And then we'll have to see what we're going to talk about next. So we'll see. We'll see. I know Nick offered a few suggestions, so
I have.
Maybe we'll take him up on those. We'll find out. Stay tuned. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, Drunk Cinema, where we recorded last night our 8th episode, so we finally got to talk Forbidden Planet, the 1950s sci-fi classic featuring Leslie Nielsen and Robbie the Robot and a certain Walter Pidgeon, I believe. So we had a good time talking that one. Then coming up, we're episode 9. We're going to be discussing, and this is Forbidden Planet was Zan's request because it was a movie I hadn't seen. So I'm going to turn the tables on her in our 9th episode and give her a movie that she hasn't seen. So we're going to discuss Kung Pao Enter the Fist, the 2002 martial arts comedy starring Steve Odenkirk, and it's a hilarious movie where it's kind of it's almost like if Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the movie Airplane had a baby. This is what would be the result.
That's quite a baby.
Yeah, it is. And it takes this very obscure 1960s, 1970 martial arts film and just creates a completely new story out of it, but it's a comedy. And I hope everybody checks that out. It's a lot of fun. So if you're looking for it, check out Kung Pao Enter the Fist from 2002. You won't regret it. At least I hope you won't. And then come on to Drunk Cinema and we'll talk about it. We'll drink and watch it all together, hopefully. So, Nick, great discussion once again. Had a ball talking with you. This show has been so fun. Talking Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it's really getting good. This is probably the best episode yet. I think it's certainly our highest rated episode yet of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And hopefully we get more like that. I don't want Zemo to leave because he brought such a great added dimension to this show.
I'm right there with you, Charles. I mean, hopefully these last 3 episodes are going to be, this is, the bar for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really been good. And I guess it shows you that the MCU so far, I don't want to, look too far ahead, but so far have been very successful with their TV shows as well as they have with their movies.
Yep. So coming up next time on the Fandom Zone, episode 213, as we discuss the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 4, as we begin the second half of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and hopefully get some more clues about the identity of the mysterious power broker. It's going to be interesting. We'll find out what Zemo's up to, hopefully, and more of the friction between Sam and Bucky and what the Flag Smashers are up to. So come on back and see us next time. Like I said, episode 4 of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Wakanda forever.